Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are when you're watching this, and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and every week we get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Lots of questions in the queue today. Looks like we are currently at refreshing 7 questions in the list. So pretty good start so far. And if you have a question you'd like to ask, please use the link that is waiting on you in the chat. And that will let you ask your question and get it in the queue. All right, so let's get started as usual today with a little office hours news. And looky, I have put together this, it's a slide deck. Isn't that neat? I've actually written a skill in Claude where it helps me select the top WordPress news of the week based on all the things that are happening, and it puts it into a nifty slide deck like this. Isn't this cool? It's an HTML document. Anyway, kind of neat little thing. It certainly saves me some time. So let's get started. You may have noticed, for example, that Tuesday we had a WordPress update, and then Wednesday we had a WordPress update, and then Wednesday we had another WordPress update. So I have never in all the years going on 16, no, actually started using WordPress in 2008. So getting close to 20 years of using WordPress, close. Really seriously using WordPress in client work since 2010. I've never seen anything like what happened this week, which the long and the short of it was we got about 400 emails in our ticket system from WordPress updates. That was not fun. That was not fun at all because you have to delete them. Anyway, yeah, so let's talk about that. WordPress released 3 updates, minor updates in under 30 hours. So here's what happened. And by the way, if you want the real hashtag WordPress drama, you can follow the play-by-play in the Make WordPress Slack group. Anybody can join that. It's you just Google WordPress Slack group, Make WordPress Slack group, and as long as you have a WordPress.org login, you can create your own user in the WordPress Slack. Everything's done out in the open. And in the core channel, there was a little bit of discussion over the last few days. Thankfully, it's kind of died down. But anyway, here's what happened. The planned normal WordPress 6.9.2 shipped on Tuesday as scheduled with 10 security patches. And immediately, reports started coming in from people whose sites were broken. Pages were just loading blank. And here's the thing, like probably if you're using, and I mean, understand what I mean when I say a good WordPress theme. Like if you're using a well-supported, well-updated, strong, robust WordPress theme, you didn't experience this issue. There was an outlying group of sites that were loading loading templates and template parts with an unsupported, unique, clever way to do some things, right? And so Core didn't know that, and it broke all these websites. Now, this is the sort of thing that you would say it's really up to the template, to the theme developer to be compliant with standards, right? But in this case, because it was a security core release where it was pushed out to all WordPress sites generally by default, they decided to fix it as a core team. So they called it a fast follow fix. You got to love an acronym. So 6.9.3 dropped just a few hours after all the things started coming in about 6.9.2. However, there were still some problems. Not all the fixes from 6.9.2 were fully applied when they pushed 6.9.3. So they then pushed 6.9.4, which had the full CVEs with all of these things right here that if you want to dig into the nitty gritty, you can. If you are running 6.9.2 or 6.9.3, update to 6.9.4. That's what you should do. And by the way, as I have recommended for years, you should have auto updates applied for these minor WordPress version releases. this, in the third number release, right? This is a major release, 6.9, 6.9 dot whatever is a minor release. The default behavior of WordPress is to automatically update those minor release versions. And it is my recommendation that you don't change that even after something like yesterday happened, because as I led with earlier, I've never seen anything like this before ever in all of the years I've been working with WordPress. And there's only ever been one other little kerfluffle with a minor update where it was just this weirdness, where it was like an incomplete weird zip file and whatever. That was years ago, and that's never happened. It was just an odd case. And so my encouragement to you is don't change your business process for this outlying thing that happened, because it probably didn't affect you anyway if you're using a reliable, is that a fact? I don't want to throw stones. If you're using themes, big themes like most of you are, like Cadence and GeneratePress, or one of the page builder default themes like Hello from Elementor or whatever, you didn't experience these issues, right? So don't break your process for somebody else's problem. That's my advice. Does that make sense? So Claude says 3 security releases in 30 hours is unusual. Yeah, it's unheard of. Unheard of in all the years I've been working with WordPress. So there we go. So funny. All right. Next one here. This is I need to adjust somehow the height of these slides. Anyway, this is a really interesting article from Business Insider. I'll drop the link to this here in the chat. If you missed this, it's been shared a lot on social, but it's really good article from Anthropic about which jobs are the most exposed to AI disruption. So the 5 most exposed job categories are programmers, customer service, data entry, medical records, and market research. Interesting. So limited evidence, AI has increased unemployment in those categories. Now, there's a great infographic that's in that article that kind of shows you the spider graph of which industries are the most affected, with just kind of extrapolating what AI can do on its own. So we kind of fall into this computer and math category. That's not awesome. So we all need to be having a really good strategy on how we're going to deal with AI as we go forward. It's an interesting article, and I would strongly recommend that you give that a quick look. Yes, thank you, Paul. Hot dog vendor cart person, not on the list, but just wait. It's probably coming. You could walk up and get your hot dog from AI. It's going to hit everybody. It's going to hit everybody. Okay, next interesting thing. I know probably the majority of people here are not Divi people, because we all have thoughts about Divi, right? Based on probably good evidence from dealing with Divi in the past and it being not an awesome experience. Divi has rewritten itself from the ground up with Divi 5. And this is something I've been following for quite some time now. And they've really done a good job. So just imagine from a technical perspective, goodness, all of that technical debt from all of those years of Divi, which was one of the original, like WP Bakery time frame original page builders that has gradually evolved with a really strong community over the years. And they managed to rewrite that whole thing with compatibility and do something from the ground up. I mean, regardless of what you think about Divi, that deserves a hat tip, because that was quite a technical lift to do what they did. So ground up rewrite, the short code based stuff is gone. Yeah, so if you're doing Divi, that you should definitely think about how you're going to deal with this. This is the editor. Look at this. This is the Divi editor now. It is way different. It looks like, my goodness, it looks almost like the block editor, doesn't it? Isn't that crazy? It's pretty interesting. So it appears to be much nicer to use than previous versions. And just if you want to be aware of what's going on with Divi, there's the link. Pretty good. I am not, by the way, suggesting that you should change your page builder to Divi if that's not your thing. I'm just saying, hey, you should know Divi is not something that you can just laugh at anymore. Okay, next one. Something I think we alluded to this a few weeks ago, but I just wanted to re-emphasize that when WordPress 7.0 comes, coming up next month, they are raising the minimum version to PHP 7.4. So that's a really old PHP version, but gradually it's going to be bumping up. So we still have one site that we manage. It was a rescue site we just took on not long ago, but it's an old theme and it doesn't run on PHP 8 dot anything. And so it still lives on 7.4 with a lot of security measures in place. But yeah, that's going to stop being supported pretty soon. WordPress 7 inches up that support bar to 7.4. Yeah. So anyway, that's coming. And so if you still have sites that are really, really old, this is the time, even with a low budget client, this is the time to start talking to them to say, look, this is like you're running your website on Windows 95. Remember that? Or Windows Vista. We can't upgrade you to the new version. And we have security problems. This has to be upgraded. It just has to. So it's time to start having that conversations with your clients if you haven't already. One more little thing here, and I think this is super cool, especially if you are designing in the block editor. One of the neat things that WordPress 7 is going to bring next month is visual revisions. Now, WordPress out of the box supports revisions, right? And you can do that. You can roll it back and whatever. And sometimes you can even see like in the code, which is changed, like with green and red, backgrounds on the blocks. The visual revisions are super cool. So you can actually slide through with a slider at the top, visual depictions of each of the revisions and what they look like. Here's how it looks. So see that slider at the top? Look at that. So you can see what's happening on the page going back in time. And look on the right, you can click down and see, okay, that's what was deleted right there. And there was, this is really cool. So this is coming to core WordPress for the block editor. If you're using a page builder, obviously it's not going to help you very much, but pretty neat and a very, I think, easy way to use revisions. It just makes a lot more sense. So there you have it. That is WordPress news for this week. Let me mention, of course, we do have a lot of interesting live streams coming up here with Hosting.com's Agency Success. We had a great live stream on Tuesday. I know there's a question or two about this in the list already, where I talked about dialing in your pricing. And I actually had several folks reach out after with some good questions and comments. March 24th, I'm really excited to give you a framework of how to rewrite your website in an hour. We'll be doing this live, and it'll be something that you could pick up and start to use with clients, most likely. You'll be able to adjust this process to sit down and do a content audit, rewrite, revision with your client pretty quickly. Also, there's a great live stream coming up. This is fairly new. This is with our friends from Equalize Digital, Chris Hines, who's the COO. They're going to be talking about how to work in accessibility into your agency and actually make money from it. And finally, super excited, especially for those of you that have been with me for a while. One of our favorite live stream series in the past has been the Plugin Roundup. And a quarterly plugin roundup is coming back here starting April the 7th. So the idea will be the first Tuesday of the next quarter, we will have a plugin roundup. And I'm excited for this, especially because, in the past, how there were always, 2 or 3 plugins that were kind of meh on those plugin roundup lists. Well, this will be quarterly, so they're all going to be better, but also AI has enabled people with just simply a good idea for a useful plugin to actually execute that plugin. And there are so many more interesting and usable plugins in the WordPress plugin directory than there were before. I'm really looking forward to see how we're going to decide which plugins go in the list. So super excited about this one. And that will be coming back April the 7th. And if you've not yet registered for this one, make sure you do so because it is right there. All right, let's get started then with some questions, shall we? We currently have, let's see if any questions have come in. We have 8 questions in the list. And so if you have a question you'd like to ask, Tanya has kindly dropped the link in the chat just a little bit scrolling up. Okay, so we'll start with Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. All right, Bonnie says, hello, can you do the launch process live stream? Or would it be possible to get the latest copy of the PDF you provided in the past? Okay, so Bonnie, a launch process live stream is actually on my list of things to do. It didn't make the cut of content that we put out for the next couple of months, but it is in the list of things that I'm going to drop in. So yes, we will be doing that soon. I don't really have a latest PDF I can give you here. If you go back to some of the places I've been in the past, some of those things are probably still downloadable if you have access. But yeah, I don't have a PDF to give you today, but this is something I've absolutely flagged as helpful content. That's we will be redoing that. And for those of you that haven't talked through that process in the past, it's really important to have a launch checklist, because inevitably the one thing you forget to do when you launch a website will be the single most important thing that you should have done for that website. It's just the way it works. So yeah. Okay, another question from Bonnie. Similarly, are there plans to host a disaster week-esque live stream? That was a fun series that we did in the past with another organization, where we took 3 days of a few hours a day and talked about WordPress disasters and how to present those. Nothing like that's on the radar, Bonnie. So I have a couple of content live streams a month that I can bring. And so right now, there's really not anything like that's on the radar. So I do understand the importance of it, though. Okie dokie. Next up, Stacy C. Hey, Stacy. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Many words. All right. I run a website for a nonprofit, which I also volunteer. One of the other advisory team members brought up the wonderful idea that we should have a mobile app to make things easier for volunteers. Wouldn't that be great? Let's have a mobile app. Stacy, make it happen, will you? That'll be easy. Won't that be easy, Stacy? Obviously, nobody else on the team has any clue about what's involved with that. I gently suggested that we don't really have the resources for that right now, and it's a completely different proposition than having a website. But there might be some things we could do with the website to make things easier. The items brought up are calendar that's easy to navigate on a phone and add events to the personal calendar. But do you mean, Stacy, like here's an event, I want to add that to my calendar? Yeah. Okay, push notifications for calendar reminders. That's harder. Ways for volunteers to access info and track their volunteer hours. Also harder. I know there are ways to make WordPress site an app, but I'm not sure that's a good solution. Plus, I think there are still ongoing costs. Yep. I'm thinking a better option might be to find a SaaS for nonprofits to handle the inside stuff and keep the website for outward-facing info. Do you have thoughts on this? Oh, do I have thoughts on this? And also, we'll certainly listen to Melanie Adcock in the chat, who works exclusively, well, mostly exclusive. Would you say exclusively, Melanie? Melanie does a ton of work with nonprofits and has for many years. So she has a lot of great wisdom and resources for this. But here's what I'll say. Calendar, easy. Most calendar plugins give you the ability to post an event and you can download a file and it adds to your calendar or whatever. The more appy things like this, you could absolutely 100% do that in WordPress, Stacy, and you would hate your life. The more you try to make WordPress act like a SaaS that is specifically designed for these sorts of things, the more like it is absolutely possible. You could do virtually anything with WordPress, but it's like I'm holding a hammer but is a hammer the best way to get this screw into the piece of wood? You could do it, but it's not the best way, right? So, yes, a SaaS, my suggestion would be a SaaS that already has these features is going to be way easier, and it's probably going to be super cheap comparatively. A SaaS is probably going to be as expensive as if you were going to try to app wrapper your WordPress site, or certainly very close to that. Melanie suggesting Planning Center. I know a lot of churches use that, and other organizations. It is built for probably exactly what you want to do, where you can set up volunteer schedules and all these things. It sends, it sends notifications and does all of that. And it's pretty inexpensive, as I recall. Let's see. Pretty cheap. Look, $0 for 5 team members. So if you have 20, I don't know how many registrations. I don't know how much giving if you're going to do that, but I mean, all this stuff, see, and we're still like under $100. It's really, yeah. I mean, it's gonna grow depending on how much stuff you need, but it looks like you can do this a la carte, which is pretty cool. So $1,000 a year, you're going to spend that on your app wrapper, probably, or close to it. And the hassle factor for you, like, it might even be worth you writing the check to have this, Stacy, instead of having to hassle with the management factor of WordPress. So yeah. And again, it could be just this simple thing of, okay, yes, we can have a calendar where you can add events. The other stuff, we're going to have to invest money or have a fundraiser or something. The other thing with nonprofits, and Stacy, you're on the board, so you know this, but you can often find a donor, like you give them the vision of what you're trying to do. Like, look, all we need is $1,000 a year to lift us into, like, get some tech that's going to help us manage our volunteer resources better. And that's an easy vision for a donor to grab hold of. And so a lot of times you can raise money with something like this as a target, and it's not as hard as it seems. So anyway, Stacy, does that help? Specifically for Stacy, Planning Center is a great resource. Bigger picture conversation for everybody. And I cannot emphasize this enough, because I've tried this and it made me hate WordPress for 6 months. Okay. I tried to build an appy thing inside of WordPress, to-do lists and, notifications and people and all this stuff. And it was a nightmare. We got it to work mostly, but it was clunky. And, the client, like, this was a trial, and the client knew going in, like, I was very clear going in that, like, we can try this. Let's see how it goes. And this, no promises. And they're like, yes. And they threw a few $1,000s even at development. And we got into it and they're like, this is terrible. And I'm like, I completely agree. And they just went to an app that cost them like $100 a month. So it was such a learning experience for me, because I'm wearing all this stress of, like, I really want to please the client, and, like, it's not working, and there's always little things breaking, and then it's horrible to use even after all this work. It was horrible. Just never, ever, ever will I do that again. So learn from my mistake. Anytime, if you have a client that wants any kind of app-like, SaaS-like functionality, there's going to be something built for that, most likely. Or how many of you have played with Lovable? Is it lovable.ai? Lovable.dev. Oh, y'all, I have built some killer apps in Lovable. One just last weekend that we actively use as solid, like, cornerstone agency tools. And it's so amazing. It's vibe coding, but it has security checks. Like, they've really done a good job of creating a platform to build legitimate apps. And these are Tailwind, React, JavaScript, like, they're good stack of apps. And a lot of the pieces are already built in, like a login flow and two-factor authentication and all that stuff. Anyway, so this is something to play with if you haven't already. And this can let you, honestly, without a whole lot of technical experience, build something pretty darn cool. Doug, what does my app do? Well, I have two. One of them is a site management tool where we are watching. Like it's like I'm thinking of like what are the problems in my agency that we need to solve, and one of them has always been how do we make sure that we're keeping like in our backup strategy we like to keep 3 backups in Dropbox regardless of the hosting back. Like we want hosting backups or whatever. We want to have backups of the sites in cloud storage that we control. And we like Dropbox because Dropbox at the pro level gives you 6 months of deleted file recovery. So you can have 6 months of files out there that you can recover at no extra cost. And it doesn't take your storage space. So anyway, all that to say, we keep as a cadence the last 3 backups of a site in the folder. But we want to, from time to time, we want to make sure that all the sites have 3 backups. And that's really hard to do without doing it manually. So we have an app that watches that for us. And it does a lot of other things in the process, like helping us look at error logs and clearing error logs from the remote app. It does a lot of different things. Another app we have is Cloudflare related. And I'm not ready to talk about that one yet, but it's Cloudflare related and it's pretty darn cool. That's one I just built last weekend. Lovable was free last weekend, by the way. And they do that from time to time. There'll be several weekends a year where it's totally free to use. So I took the weekend and built a little app because I'm a nerd. Anyway, next up, Ben Anderson. All right. Hey, Ben, how are you? Let's see. All right, Ben. Oh, this should be fun. A customer likes video and would like something like this on their homepage. Okay, it's a background row video. Very good. Okay. So is it a good idea? That's a great question. So quick poll in the chat. Background video, yes or no, in general? Background video, yes or no? Oh, yes. Oh, Alvin says make it a GIF. Oh, that's awesome, Alvin. Okay, so yes, in general, I recommend to clients that they do not put a background video on their site. A number of reasons, like it can be accessibility issue with if it's a lot of moving things. It's also going to slow down the site, etc. So Terry suggesting uploading on YouTube and embed. That's an option. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're going to do background video, it's a big if, okay? And I'll show you. Here's a site we did, probably the most recent one. I think it is. I just changed the domain name of this site. Nope, that's not it. Oh, no, I should know this. Okay, so this is a site that we did, and this is their background video. And they're very particular about what they wanted, etc. It's also a homeowners association, and there were 800 cooks in the kitchen, right? All the board had to be, and it was a mess. So anyway, all that to say, we ended up with this background video. Now, to do this, we did a few things. So the video editor that actually built this gave us the full giant, 2K, whatever, 2160, whatever it is, giant full-size file. So we had to run it through and compress that down. And we used a tool called, just a minute, I'll find it here. Veed, this one. This is a great little tool that we used to help to compress the file. And I even tried doing it manually with ScreenFlow and some other tools. Veed was a really good one, and it crunched it down, okay? And there are others, like Paul's got smushyourstupidvideo.com. Interesting. So recommended, and Doug is right, a 720p video is going to be fine for a full-width web video. This one, notice how this is a little soft, like it's not a super sharp video. If you look at this one, It's pretty sharp. And you can especially see in the movement, the detail is sharp. That means this is probably way too large of a video file quality. Now, the other thing we've learned is you would think that putting a video in Vimeo or YouTube would be a good way to help with speed, and it's actually not. We've learned this just in experience of the extra CSS and Java, all the stuff that has to load to start to stream a Vimeo video or a YouTube video is often bigger and more weight. And you're calling off site. And Terry, exactly. And particularly with YouTube, you might have cookie issues. It's just not the way to do it. So what we do, and you can see it here. Well, you could look at the source if you wanted to, but I'll just go here into Cloudflare. Let me get logged in. We actually use Cloudflare R2 for this in most cases for background video. So Cloudflare R2 is kind of like, it's Cloudflare's version of an Amazon S3 bucket, and it's basically free. It is basically free. Let me just make sure I'm in the right account. That's not it. 1 second here, and I will get back to the right account. I don't want to be clicking around Cloudflare on a shared screen. I believe this is it. Yes. Okay. So here let me back up to the account level. So under manage account, no, it's under storage and databases right here, R2 object storage. So at the account level, and it's easy to get lost in Cloudflare, I know, but at the account level, you can, you go over here under storage and databases, and right here is R2 object storage. You can create can I not get in here? No, I don't have rights with this shared user. Anyway, you create a bucket, and it's so inexpensive. Like infrequent storage is a penny per gigabyte, y'all. It's just a penny per gigabyte, and they give you 1 million requests per month, free. And even if you have less than 10 gigabytes of storage, it's free. So you could just use this and it's free. And just like S3, you drop something in there and you get a URL and it streams really well. Just like you saw here on this site. It streams basically instantly, and it just works really well. So we've moved all of our background videos over to R2. Melanie, it's way, I think it's more performant than a typical S3 bucket, and it's definitely cheaper because S3 is going to charge you for rent for the storage space and egress out whenever the video is being loaded, right? And so as long as you're not going over, 10 gigs a month of bandwidth, which you're not going to hit 10 gigabytes unless it's just a super high traffic. Ben, what size do you aim for? So I try to do it. This is the hard part, okay? Because, you got to make a video that then has to resize. So where we went round and round with the video editor who wanted to be super creative and have like the focal point in different parts of the screen, we're like, you can't do that. Focal point has to be in the middle half of the screen because the screen is going to shrink, right? The middle half and the middle, because as it gets smaller for mobile and whatever, it's going to scale down this way and this way. So he had to go re-edit a bunch of things because the thing that, you wanted to see these people walking and their legs are across the top of the video, It's like, oh, you got to center that, buddy. It's hard, but once you get that right, just a standard, billboard landscape size, 16 by 9, basically size video at about 720p is going to be kind of the place you want to shoot. Then run it through a video cruncher like the one I gave you. There's a bunch of other ones out there to get the size down as much as possible, then stick it over in R2. And that's about as good as you can get. It's still going to slow down your page. Ben, and the megabytes, or does that not matter when you stream? Okay. So that's a great question. I don't know how I can answer that in megabytes, but we went round and round with these people on this video because I think this video is like a minute long. And I've told them 800 times that, um, you can't, like, nobody's going to sit there and watch this video, the whole thing. But that's what they wanted. So that's what we did, right? It's a board. Boards are complicated, etc. Anyway, so it was a series of conversations in which I tried to offer, consultation, and we got what we got. And I think it looks good. It ended up great, and they're very happy with it, and we're happy to have it built. So it's more, rather than megabytes, it's really length of the video. I would say a typical background video, you want it to be like 15 seconds, because the people just aren't going to stay there and look at it. The other trick, by the way, to a background video is the hard cut, like when it goes to loop. What I've learned to do is, if I'm editing a background video for something, what I'll do is take a screenshot of the first frame of the video, and at the end of the video, have a smooth fade into that frame, so that when it loops, it looks like a clean transition. That's another little tip that I've learned over the years. And then you crunch the video and you should be good. So these are hard conversations with clients. And at the end of the day, clients want what they want, and it's their website. Our goal is not to convince the client that they ought not to have a background video. Our role is to be consultants and help them understand the pros and the cons. But at the end of the day, they get to make the decision, and it's theirs. And we left with clients that were very satisfied with the site. And we built another one for them since then. So anyway, is that helpful? So there's the technical thing, and there's the business, little bit of a business process behind it. All right, next up is TJ. All right, so this is a follow-up from the pricing live stream. TJ, are you here? Yeah, hey, TJ. I talked about avoiding hourly rates in pricing conversations. Yes, I did. I'm still a bit confused on where or if hourly pricing might or should come up in scope. Could we please dive a little deeper into that, especially how the pricing language comes into play when writing up the initial introduction and scope document? Absolutely. Okay, so how many others have this same question? Like, dollar per hour has just kind of been how you did it. I think we've all been there at some point. And so this is the analogy that I like to use. Okay. Let's just say that something goes wrong with your car, and you're going to go to a mechanic, and Mr. Mechanic, Mrs. Mechanic, how much is this going to cost? Well, I charge $70 an hour. Okay. How much is it going to cost? Well, it might be 3 hours, might be 8 hours, What do you want when you go into a mechanic to talk about fixing your car? You want the price, right? I don't care personally. I mean, not that I don't care about the person, but it doesn't matter to me. That's a better way to say it. It doesn't matter to me how long it takes the mechanic to fix my car. I want to know that it's going to be fixed and how much it's going to cost me. And I want to know that ahead of time as best as possible, right? And so that's the idea going into these kinds of conversations. It is much better, both for you and for the client, to give them a scope of work and a price. And now, honestly, most mechanics these days will even, they can look up in the book and say, oh, this service usually takes 4 hours, and multiply that by our rate. And so it's, let's just, for round numbers, we charge $100 an hour at our mechanic shop, and this is something that the book says should take 3.5 hours. So the cost to replace that water pump, Mr. Ingram, is $350. Like, I don't care if it's going to take them. I don't care if it takes less than that or longer than that. I just want to know, how much is it going to cost, right? So leave the time out of it. The client ultimately the client shouldn't care how long it takes you. If a client does care about how long it takes you, you have to ask yourself why. Why does it matter to this client that it takes me 2 hours or 4 hours to do this work? And you usually have a control freak client on your hands, which is not somebody I want to work with anyway, right? So, like, the point here is, I don't want to put hours into the conversation, because every time I've ever done that, and all the time I've been doing any kind of client work, back from when I was doing IT or graphic design or video editing or all the things that I've done over the years, anytime I've brought hours into the equation, the clients, it offers the opportunity, or it begs the question from the client, well, why did this take you 8 hours to do? It seems like you could have done that in 4 hours or whatever. It's just, people don't understand the time involved, and it quite frankly shouldn't matter to them. Right. And if it does, I got to scratch my head and ask myself why. Does that make sense? So like it's my business. I get to charge what I charge. And there's a flat rate for the work that's involved. And the client doesn't need to know how much time it took. And that leads into, well, look, if I have $1 per hour rate or whatever. So TJ saying an hourly rate shouldn't be mentioned even for a one-off or emergency fix that's outside the scope. Great question. I wouldn't do that. Like, don't mention your hourly rate. Tell them it costs this much money. So, a page is broken on there, something's broken, whatever. Doing that, you can do the quick math in your head of roughly how much time and whatever, and run through a pricing matrix of what it should cost, because that's ultimately what it matters to the client. Now, emergencies, what we normally say is it's usually a 50% markup if it's an emergency that needs to be done after hours or on the weekend, or, sooner than we could normally get to it. In other words, if the client is forcing me to adjust my schedule for something, whether it's my personal being off on the weekends or evenings, or whether I'm having to rearrange work because they have to have something for some reason, that's an emergency, and it's usually a 50% markup. Now, I don't talk about that in terms of dollars per hour. I talk about it in terms of, this is $300 for us to do if you can wait until Monday. If it has to be done today, it's going to be $450 because we have to rearrange some work, and it's going to have an emergency, a rush rate on it. So does that make sense, TJ? So Sue, that's a great question. And let's put a pin in that because that's a slightly different situation. Yeah. Okay. And so the other part of this whole hourly thing is this, and this is, I can't tell you how important this is. I emphasized it in the live stream Tuesday, and that is tracking time sucks. It sucks. I never want to do that again. And I know there's little apps you can do and whatever, but I inevitably forget to click the stupid thing and whatever. It's just, tracking time is awful. And it just introduces a whole layer of complexity to billing that makes me want to avoid doing it. Now, if that's not you and you love doing that and it's fantastic, but I can't think of a single time in any coaching conversation I've had in the more than 10 years I've been coaching micro agency owners where somebody's been tracking time and it's been a good thing for their business. I mean, maybe you're the exception, and that's great. But I'm just saying, in my experience and all the people I've dealt with over 10 plus years, anybody who's been tracking time, it's ultimately been a bad thing for their business. And they've built a system and structure that they hate. And as a result, they're not billing for what they ought to, because billing, there's friction getting into it because my times are off and all that. It's just, don't build a business you hate. And tracking time is inevitably going to make you hate that part of your business. Okay. Does that make sense? Good there? Okay. So Sue had a good question. I got to find it. Do you charge if a site breaks that you manage or host? Is that an emergency rate? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, we even say on our website in our care plan section that you get unlimited emergency help. If something is broken, we fix it. That's what you're paying us for. Because let's face it, more often than not in a care plan, there's not going to be things like that happen. And honestly, if we've built the site well and our hosting and our infrastructure is good, you don't have those emergencies that come up. But if something breaks, that's part of the trust and assurance the client is paying for, to know that if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m, we're going to fix it as soon as we become aware of it. So we say unlimited emergency help, and we just don't have that many emergencies. If you have a ton of emergencies, you either need to redefine what an emergency is or build your sites better so things don't break. Sue, like a plugin with a bad update. Great question. So if we're updating a website and a plugin breaks, that sets off a process. So in our contract, we say we give it up to, I think it's 3 hours, where we'll actually try to fix that plugin. If go back and forth with support or whatever, we'll try to fix it. And if not, we'll make a recommendation of what to do next. And that may be, hey, look, this is a broken plugin and the developer's not helping and we're going to have to replace it with something, that is not covered in a website management agreement because that's actually a mini project. We've done the best we can to manage what's there, but now we have to add something new. So that's a conversation the client gets to decide what they want to do at that point. So does that help? Does that clarify? Now, again, that's just what we do, and everybody's welcome to do things their own way, but we would treat that as a new addition to the website. I could probably count on one hand in the recent past the times that that's actually happened, where we've had to rebuild something or whatever, because it just goes into the whole thing of what are you building your sites on? Are you building them with reliable plugins that, as you know, your best bet is they're not going to have those issues, or are you just kind of pulling plugins from here and there? Your stack matters. Okie dokie. Tanya is next. Oh, this sounds like fun. Okay, so a client of mine got a copy track notice. Okay, so if you're not familiar with copy track, they are like the second generation of the Getty Images thing. And they're people who scan the web looking for supposedly copyright images. Anyway, so client got a copy track notice for an image that was added to her website by me in 2018. Luckily, my email pack rat tendencies paid off, and I had my receipt for canned stock images, and the image had the copyright inflow in the property, so I was able to quickly get that sorted. Also helped that I went ahead and purchased a current license from Deposit Photos since CanStock shut down in 2023. However, this got me thinking about how I save or document stock images, and it's a great question. How many of you have thought about that? I don't think we've ever gotten a copy track notice. We did deal with some Getty image stuff 20 years ago. Anyway, my advice to you is this, and it falls into like the same category of advice that I give all the time. And that is make your stack consistent. And your stack also includes where you're buying your stock photography from. So if one of our clients were to ever get one of these notices, and if it was a site that we built, then the stock image is going to have come from, what's it called? Deposit Photos. Yeah. Because that's where we get all of our stock photos, period. And so all I have to do is go look for that. They have an image search where you can just drop the image in there. It'll show up and I can see where I bought it. And there you go. So if you have 18 sources from which you are pulling your stock photography, then you're making your job harder. It's much better to pick a tool and use the tool and here's the tricky part, and it's really tricky for those of us who are geeks, such as myself, that love the new and shiny. We pick a tool, we pick a source, and we stick with it unless there's a business reason to change it, because inconsistency in your stack is going to come back and bite you. And Tanya, you're right. Maybe they shut down. That's a good point. You do the best you can, right? Oh, Gene. Okay. If I buy an image license and charge the client, is the client covered by the license? That's a great question. And I am not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. But the way we do it is this. The image is a deliverable in a product that we created using that license. And so, yes, it follows through. And that's the way I read the Deposit Photos license. And that's the way my AI attorney reads the Deposit Photo license. But I am not a lawyer, and you should get a good answer to that for yourself. Next up is Doug. Hey, Doug. What tools are you currently using to do a website? Going to need to take that affiliate link out. Yeah, website audit for a new client. I'm also looking for a tool to do an SEO audit. Given all the AI options, there are a lot of good choices. Yep, Claude Code with SEO skills is one of the options, and it is quite good. Anyone using online auditing tools, and the one that was suggested is mywebaudit.com. This is my buddy Cliff that runs this group. And hey, look, there's some people on this call. There's Melanie Adcock, and there's Ben Bradley. Look at that. You guys are famous. Right there on the front page. Have you gotten your, and it's there. You guys should get a commission for this, for like name, image, and likeness right on the front of the website. Anyway, So Cliff has a great product. Um, My Web Audit. It's been around for years. Cliff is an agency guy. He is um, in the personas that live in the agency world. He is definitely this like a salesman type guy, and he's brilliant at it. And he brings the tech with his partners. And this My Web Audit tool is something they built for themselves and then opened up to other agencies, and it is fabulous. It's a little pricey, but if you're using it for its intended purpose, it ought to pay for itself and then some. And so we've used this in the past. We don't do a lot of these, so it's not something we pay for every month. But yeah, we've used this in the past, and I've been quite pleased. Quite pleased. Yeah, so good. Yeah, good information there in the chat. This one in particular, the annual client meeting playbook. And so there's folks that I know that I work with that have used this in like they do an annual website audit for their clients, and it's helpful. It's a good benefit for a care plan, but also it helps them sell more things every year. So it's a good thing. The other thing I'll recommend if you want something less expensive is a really cool tool called 66 Audit. I think it's .com. Yep. So this is a self-hosted little PHP app that does some really cool stuff. It's self-hosted. They do give you support, but you can it's a whole audit, and it does a lot of interesting things. It'll reveal lots of things here. So you give this a peek. We looked at this, but ultimately we don't do enough of these to really, we don't have a tool for this. So a couple of options there. Any other options that folks are using? If you're going to be doing SEO services, and you're making money on this from a regular basis, I don't think you can do better than My Web Audit, because Cliff is an excellent educator and he's constantly talking to the community and doing live streams and things like that. Really, really good. And yeah, I mean, there's folks right there in the chat that are using it. All righty. Next up is Awesome Paul, looking for an answer to a problem that does not exist. Okay. A client had an unreachable agency create their website. We are creating a new site for them since they can't get hold of them. No one knows. Oh, no. No one knows who registered the domain at GoDaddy. They went through the auto recovery process only to be told that no one with that name is on the account. And due to privacy, they can't disclose who did. Outside of getting a new domain name, any out of the box ideas? Oh, tell every client they need to own their domain name. That is an asset for the business. And unfortunately, no. Other than, trying again. I mean, does GoDaddy understand the situation that these folks have gone belly up? And they, like if you go to the website where the domain is pointed and call them, you're going to get the owner right here and not. I'm assuming they know all of that. If it was just the automated GoDaddy process, maybe you can talk to a human being. But yeah, I mean, legally, your client does not own the domain name. And it's so sad. Like it's something they do not own. And so unless they can get the actual owner, it's like any other piece of property. Unless they can get the actual owner to give them that property, they're out of luck. Terry, that's a good point. Paul, are you a GoDaddy agency partner? I forget what they call it. GoDaddy Pro, whatever they call it. If you are, you get kind of a different level of people. Have you tried to, if you like, Paul, even, how do I start into this? If you're like a GoDaddy Pro and you have that access, okay, yes. So if you have clients who've delegated access, you probably are in the GoDaddy Pro dashboard, and that probably they flagged you for that. So Paul, I would call and talk to a person and just explain the situation yourself as a web guy and see what they can do to help your client. A lot of times you can get somebody to move the needle. but it's going to take a human because, and like an agency silo in GoDaddy, a human in that silo might be able to help you. But yeah, it's by the letter of the law. They're not paying for it. They're not paying GoDaddy for it. They don't own it. And so you're asking GoDaddy to give you something that doesn't currently belong to you, right? And so there's risk from GoDaddy's side to do that. So anyway, not an easy way to deal with it. And even if the domain is about to expire, it's still going to sit there for 60 days or something in limbo. I would almost say pick a new website. How long has the site been alive? Does it have any SEO? Is it getting traffic? Does it have any SEO value at all? Because if it doesn't, just rebuild it, start over again. That's a mess. I've been there. It is no fun. And I hope you're charging your client for this because this is your time it's going to take. And that needs some sort of a consulting charge unless the client wants to handle it themselves. And honestly, Paul, a lot of times, if you tell the client, I've kind of reached the point where I can continue to do this for free and it's going to cost you X number of dollars, that will help the client make the decision. Is it worth pursuing my existing domain name or should I just cut my losses and get a new domain name? Last and certainly not least is Tanya. Hey, Tanya. I have a client that wants my ACH info to set up payments for me in their QuickBooks. Great. My bank is telling me to only give this info to someone I trust completely. I don't trust anyone that much. When I mentioned that the same info is on every check I have ever sent, they said, yes, but you only sent checks to people you trust. It's not true. I send checks to the IRS and I don't trust them at all. That was a joke for the IRS AI that's certainly watching this conversation. And I love you all dearly and you're doing wonderful work. Oh, you said the same. Doggone it. Tanya, you're funnier than me. You even said it right there on the screen. Anywho, how safe is giving a client your ACH information? All right. So a couple of things. Doug, I don't know if it was great minds. I'm not sure either of us are in that category. Tanya probably is. So in order to take your ACH information, most banks are going to require, and QuickBooks does also, they require that you have an ACH agreement, but also there should be a way that you QuickBooks, I'm going to stop that train of thought and start again. QuickBooks ACH, they're trying to pay you with QuickBooks ACH. I would not worry about it at all with QuickBooks. And I think if you investigate this, I don't know for sure, but I think with QuickBooks ACH that you actually, they'll send you an invitation, you go and put your information in, and then it's in there. I think QuickBooks has a way for you to do that. If not, there are other options, but if it's a client that you have worked with for a while, I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't worry about it. And Jamie, this is, pardon me, Tanya, this is a payment, right? And they're not they're trying to pay you automatically. Okay. I would suggest that we do it the other way. And you set up ACH where they provide you their information and you'll pull the money every month. Yeah. And a basic Stripe account will allow you to do that. You can go in, my old demo Stripe account just expired. I need to set up a new one, but you can go into Stripe in the dashboard, set up a customer and set up an invoice that only has bank as the payment method and not credit card. Send them the link to that invoice. They can pay with their ACH information and it'll connect through Plaid where they go select their bank and whatever, go through that process. And then that becomes their default payment method in Stripe. So you can then set up a Stripe subscription that debits their account. And it is way cheaper than credit card payments. I think it's like 0.1%. And it's up to the max they'll charge per ACH transaction is $5. Yeah. So we're moving all of our new clients. We're even moving the website management stuff over to ACH. Um, and we're like in the process, what we're going to do is project payments are going to be paid through Stripe ACH. And that way we have their bank on file and we just roll that in. As soon as they move into website management, we just keep billing that payment method. It's also better. Okay. It's also better to do with ACH because I've heard a number of stories recently where a web developer and their clients have gotten into a little fight, and the client has successfully done chargebacks for a year of website management. And while you could probably go to court and fight all of that and whatever, it's not worth it. And so you're out of luck. And many credit cards will do that. And the fighting a chargeback like that is super difficult. And you often will not win it because the processor tends to fall to the side of the cardholder rather than the merchant. And that's another, thank you, Tanya. That's another reason why not to use PayPal. We had that discussion a couple weeks ago. PayPal's really bad about that. So all that to say, with ACH, those options don't exist. There isn't a cardholder agreement with ACH. So you pull the money, it's yours, it's done, over and done with. So that's another reason why we're slowly moving everyone to ACH. It does take, 5 full business days to get the money through ACH, but cash flow is not my number one priority in those situations. I know the payment's coming. It doesn't matter if it's 3 or 5 days, but it does take a bit longer. All right. Whew, that was a lot today. This was a lot of fun. Great questions as usual, everybody. That brings us to the end of the list. So once again, thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. I hope you've picked up 1 or 2 fun things that you can start to put to work in your business, or things to scratch your head about. That's going to do it for us today. Let's quickly check. Next live stream, I believe, is our office hours of next week. So once again, if you don't have this link to register for upcoming live streams, make sure you have that. Go ahead and get signed up. If you sign up for office hours, it's once for all. You'll continue to get weekly reminders about that until you opt out. So just have to do that once. And so thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you do no work whatsoever and enjoy time with your hobbies, families, and friends. And I'll see you back here next Thursday for office hours on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.